Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Andrea, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that at our website, and that's uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter again at uofva.org for all the details. Our message and meditation today comes from Chris Kraus. Chris is a ministerial candidate in the Unity Urban Ministerial School and has been a licensed Unity teacher since 2018. She stepped up to provide ministerial support as spiritual leader to Unity of Frederick in Maryland from 2021 until its dissolution in 2023 after the COVID pandemic. Drawn to prayer since childhood, Chris has served as a prayer chaplain at Unity of Gaithersburg, Unity in Frederick, and has served as co-prayer chaplain for the Unity Eastern Region Fall Conference Planning Committee for 4 years. She has been a repeat guest speaker at Unity Centers in Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Chris lives in Rockville, Maryland with her husband Andy, her son Arthur, and their lab rescue Max. She loves to garden and cook and read science fiction and fantasy in her spare time. And now here is Chris Kraus.
Thank you, Andrea. So, what's in your spiritual toolkit? Okay, so you're asking what's a spiritual toolkit and why do I need one? A spiritual toolkit is a consolidation of the many unity principles and teachings that help us to remain centered and balanced during life's challenging time. My toolkit idea began during the pandemic. So we have medical kits for band-aids and boo-boos. We have car kits, for when we have a flat tire. So why not a spiritual toolkit to help guide us through those life situations that can be challenging? The past 2 years have tested my ability to remain centered and balanced and on my spiritual path in so many different ways that I have used my toolkit daily. Some of you know some of it, and here I am. Now, truly, any spiritual toolkit is composed of both inner teachings and outer teachings because we live in both worlds. We live in the world of spirit. We are spiritual beings. And we live in the human being world. We have a physical reality. I believe that the world, both inner and outer, is in the midst of a huge paradigm shift that affects everything that we do. And it affects everything that we took for granted before the pandemic. And this is causing a huge shift in consciousness that isn't finished yet. So it affects every area of our lives. It affects politics, education, work, relationships, medicine, even church. Look, here I am on Zoom. We weren't doing that before the pandemic. We were all meeting in person. These changes have caused emotional issues, fear, anger, you know, those kinds of things. They've also caused psychological issues of stress and anxiety. And so the spiritual toolkit idea is designed to help us navigate these issues in a way that allows us to live in a centered fashion. In reality, we all have a spiritual toolkit, whatever the issue, financial, job loss, troubled relationship, even grief over the loss of a beloved family member or the beloved family pet. Unity has those spiritual tools that help each of us master any challenge and grow spiritually in the process. However, we may not be consciously aware that we do have a spiritual toolkit and how to use it in life's challenging moments. So we need to use those principles and teachings as guideposts through navigating and creating a flow of energy, positive energy in our life experiences. One of my major spiritual tools has always been, for my whole life, prayer and meditation. Prayer is probably the most practical tool in my spiritual toolkit because it has so many different applications. After all, our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, said that prayer is the most accelerated mind action known to man. What that means in human speak, in day-to-day speak, is that it is the prayer and meditation are the fastest way to get into communion with the source of our being. That's the fastest way. Thinking is the fastest way to travel, according to the Moody Blues. But in this day and age, thinking is going inside and allowing those thoughts to expand. Meditation is also important because meditation spends a lot of time in the silence. And truly, it's in the silence that we enter into that communion with Source, that giving and taking of a relationship. And so when I set an intention going into prayer or meditation, because I'm going in with something that needs to be solved, which isn't all the time. Not every meditation is like this. But when I set a meditation intention, I go in and I go into the silence. And sometimes I get, aha, I got it. And I'm done. I get this huge gestalt of information downloaded into my brain that I can use to solve the problem. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen most of the time. Some other times I go in and I open to listen for that still small voice of God, and I gain insights that allow me to solve the problem. And again, that doesn't happen all the time. Over 50% of the time, I go into the meditation or the prayer, and what I experience is peacefulness, a shift of consciousness to be more aware of myself, of who I am and what I am. And I come out of it knowing that the answer will come. And so I will be patient, but sometimes in my conscious mind, like walking along the highway, I still go into those thought patterns of like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And sometimes I literally get a sign. And it reads, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And this is an expression by Nelson Mandela, which I keep on my desk because it was an answer to prayer at a time when I think that I couldn't solve the problem and it was impossible. And it isn't. It's never impossible. So the other major tool that I use are the 12 powers. Now, the 12 powers are innate in all of us. They are how we express the image and likeness of God. Because the image and likeness of God isn't some old guy sitting up on a cloud judging us. That, it's not a physical image and likeness. Our image and likeness of God is in our powers, those faculties of mind that we each carry that are part of our being as a spiritual being. And each of those is unique to us as an individual. I can't possibly tell you how to access your powers except when you name them in prayer and meditation, that opens up a power. And it allows that power to start to function in your life. So as you become more consciously aware that you have the powers, you can use them more consciously. So lately, I've been working on the power of dominion, which I affectionately call the power, because it is our power that is related to the omnipotence of God, the all power of God. Now, in reality, I don't have all of the power of the universe. I just have the power to control myself, my thoughts, my words, my emotions, my beliefs, and my actions. That's the only power that any of us really has in our life. However, I can be mindful now in life situations of the effect of my thoughts and my words that come from my thoughts and thus result in actions and what effect they may have on others. And so when I find I don't like the effect that they have on others, I can recognize that I need to go deeper to come into some kind of understanding of how they affect others. So, for example, one of those that I've unearthed is that childhood expression. Children should be seen and not heard. And so it took me a long time to develop my own voice as an adult, but you'll notice I've developed my voice. And I've realized the false belief there. We should all be seen. We should all be heard because we're all divine beings in human expression. So what else is in my spiritual toolkit? Well, I'm going to share some of these spiritual tools. Some of these are from Unity teachings that I've developed over my years of studying Unity teachings. And some of these are universal truths, like Buddhist truths, and they are all part of me. Your spiritual toolkit will be composed of things, probably things that you already know, but these are things that are part of your unique experience navigating the human condition. And they will reflect who you are, a spiritual being, and what you are, a human being. So the first of these tools is acceptance. Learning to accept myself as who, spiritual being, and what, human being, I am. And it reminds me of that old Unity saying with a little twist. We are spiritual beings having a spiritual adventure in the human condition. Notice the difference that that spiritual adventure makes for us. We have it's like, I think it's like a roller coaster ride. We go up and up and up. We're having a wonderful experience. And we get to the top and we look and we see, we're going down. But that's part of the adventure. We learn and grow through those times that we're navigating that roller coaster ride, the ups and the downs, and learning to remain centered and balanced, whether it's up or it's down. So that's one way of looking at acceptance. Another is I tend to have a perfectionist streak, and I want to be more in control than I can be. And so I've had to learn an affirmation that I use to remind myself that I am perfectly imperfect, imperfectly perfect, and perfect just as I am, right here, right now, in this time. And that helps me to stay centered and balanced and live the life that I'm living in the moment. Self-care is a really important tool, believe it or not, a spiritual tool, because it's more than just healthy eating and drinking, getting a good night's sleep, and exercising. Self-care is actually an important part of our spiritual component because really our body is the temple of the living God. And it is in honoring the body that we are honoring that temple of the living God. And that's where we meet the divine within each of us. One of the Buddhist teachings that's been part of unity teachings is mindfulness. So I'm learning when I'm in a life situation and I'm triggered, and I'm learning sometimes not to overreact, not often, but sometimes I learn not to overreact in the situation. And therefore, I can work towards a solution to the situation. But honestly, this really is for me a work in progress. It probably is for many of us, a work in progress. And so when I'm triggered, I know to go back into that mindfulness state, that state in the silence, to look at where those embedded beliefs are from childhood, root them out, and then the next time I can deal better. Because this is not one and done. We go through this and we spiral back around to a place, another place where we're in part of that old childhood pattern that we need to release, and we let it go and we just keep spiraling it around. Another part of mindfulness for me is what I call the hamster on a wheel syndrome. You know, my mind goes around and around in circles, loops around and around, doesn't come up with any solutions. It just keeps working on the problem, just going around and around and around. And finally, you know, I'm learning that when I am in those thoughts to look at the pattern, and that takes me more quickly to looking at what it is that I need to release from my consciousness so that I can let go of that old pattern of belief and make room for a change of consciousness. Forgiveness work is throughout Unity teachings. And Unity teaches us something a little bit different. It's important to forgive others. It's important to forgive the situation. But Unity also teaches us to forgive ourselves because most of us are harder on ourselves than we are on anybody else. And the Unity truth is that each of us is a unique and independent expression of the divine, and each of us is interdependent on others to express and co-create our world, the outer reality that we want to create. And so forgiveness work is an essential part of that changing the consciousness, shifting the consciousness to a consciousness of love and acceptance of each other. It's necessary for a peaceful, balanced life. And again, it's not one and done, it's ongoing because life is ongoing. Compassion is the ultimate expression of divine love. And in a class that I was taking several years ago, there was a book by Kristen Neff called Self-Compassion that taught that compassion begins with myself, letting go of my mistakes, accepting myself as I am. And then, as I accept that I am that divine being, then I can express the compassion for others in my family and my friends, the people that are in my inner circle in my life. And eventually, the third stage of compassion, according to Kristen Neff, is compassion for the larger community. Compassion means that I'm compelled to want to end the suffering of others And I think that's something that we all feel. If we have that divine, if we are expressing that divine love within us, we want to help others. And it's in those stages that we can actually begin to help others. And it's what compels me to want to help others for the highest good of all and within my larger community. Focusing on the positive is something that is really important when you find yourself on that hamster on a wheel, thinking to replace that negative thought with a positive thought, because thoughts are things and they become our outer reality. And again, with that hamster on a wheel, it's important to tell that hamster, stop, just stop. Life is good. And so find things to do every day that are pleasurable and find the joy in your life. Some of you have listened to me talk about my fur person, Max. He makes me laugh every day, and he's part of my joy in life. When I'm out in my garden, I'm awesomely aware of the beauty of nature, the goldfinch, the cardinal, the flowers and the beautiful colors, the blue of the sky, the green of grass. Wow, nature is just filled with such beautiful, beautiful things that we experience every day. And finally, the people in my life that I cherish and love. Sometimes I just look at them and see the God in them, see that divine source within them. And I'm just awestruck by how the divine manifests in each of us. So, thanking people for what they do, having an attitude of gratitude is a spiritual tool. And again, it's something that is throughout the Unity teachings. I start each day with a prayer, thanking the universe that I'm for my day, that for the day that's coming up. Frankly, when you are old, we often do that because we're thankful to be awake. But it's a blissful way to start the day. When I'm out and about, I thank the people that are waiting on me, the grocery store clerk, the person that gives me advice. Those are things that I thank them for. People that I'm talking on the phone with, people that I'm emailing, I'm very thankful and in gratitude that they're helping me co-create my world. And thanking people, especially the people that you know less well, reminds them that they are appreciated for what they do, even if it's a small part in your life. And sometimes even just a smile to a stranger who seems sad, who you notice, and they notice you, just shifts them. And sometimes they even smile back. And that's so wonderful. But beyond the personal, I realize through the power of dominion that I cannot shift anyone else's consciousness, and I can't shift the collective consciousness by myself. And you can't either. Trust me, I've tried it. I got the cosmic 2x4, and I don't want you to get it. It's not fun. Once was enough for me. Shifting my perspective, working on myself, is what I focus on. And I suggest that you focus on working on yourself, shifting your consciousness, because shifting your consciousness does affect the collective consciousness. And in reality, we co-create with all 8+ billion souls on this planet and source. That's unity principle number 3. So remember the power of power. Remember that the control that you have is over your own life and your own circumstances and how you react to life's situations. However, we can get centered and peaceful through one aspect of our spiritual practice, which is prayer and meditation. So let's take that into meditation. Get yourself comfortable. Close your eyes if you feel that you can tune out the outer world. Relax into your space. Let's take a few centering breaths. Just breathe in and breathe out. And in and out. Release everything that's happened before this now moment. Release what's going to happen for the rest of the day. And just be fully present in this moment of peace. As we open our heart space to the divine life that resides within and all around us. We forgive others, our life situation, ourselves, for anything that has gone before. We let it go. We see with the God eyes of love ourselves, others, the situation, and know that all is well. We have compassion for suffering, and we know that we can work to alleviate it in our lives and the lives of all sentient beings. We affirm that we are living as spiritual beings, having a spiritual adventure in the human condition. We focus on the good in life, the peace, the love, the joy of life. Let's take that into the silence for a few minutes. In the silence, we know our connection with the source of our being, our communion with the creative life forces. We acknowledge that this communion can provide us with insights, can provide us with guidance and wisdom. We know that we experience peace and love and joy as we go within. And we know that the good thing about being able to go within is that the divine is closer than breathing. always available, always within us as we turn within. And we are truly grateful, grateful for life, grateful for the opportunity to learn, to grow, to fully experience all the adventure that life has to offer us. We are grateful for each other, that we co-create our reality, and that as we do it with love and understanding and wisdom, that we are co-creating a better world, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Because truly, as we change our consciousness, we change the collective consciousness. And we are grateful for the source of our being, those creative life forces that are sentient, that are in operation within us, all around us, immanent and transcendent. And so it is. And so we do give thanks. And so we let it be.
Chris, thank you so much. That lesson was so practical, it was concise. Your tone of voice is so loving, and your rate of speech is in such a way that I think we can process very well what you're saying. Thank you. Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation.